I made the allegation, you can't fight me back or sue me back. I mean, it seems like that's what she's implying here.
I don't see any malice in the counters in Baldoni suit because there is a lot of evidence that maybe this isn't with maliciousness. So, and if they can't come up with anything, those cases should be kicked out.
Ryan Reynolds is absolutely losing it after Blake Lively pulled another humiliating stunt in her case with Baldoni. And believe me, it's messier than ever.
She went too far, allegedly, according to Justin, and I see the writing on the wall even reading this as we go through. Like, I don't know if you want to...
It's just the quote, the source saying, this is prior to everything really going down.
Turns out the woman who swore she never hijacked a movie just got caught red-handed, again, with actual receipts this time.
He has a good, what I believe is a good faith basis, and this was not done in bad faith.
And to make things worse, 2 fresh witnesses just came out swinging, and the jury is clearly running out of patience.
I think it means that America Ferrara is no longer supporting Blake Lively.
So now it's not just Blake under fire, Ryan's getting dragged into the chaos too, and Hollywood is done pretending they're still the golden couple. Industry people are quietly backing away.
Which is what happens to everyone that supports Blake Lively publicly in any way on social media.
And Ryan, poor guy. His company, Maximum Effort, used to have everyone lining up with brand deals and streaming offers like he was giving out free Teslas.
That's where Ryan comes in. It's no coincidence that his production company, Maximum Effort, because that's what he gives when he puts his name mind behind it, promising blah, blah, blah.
Now the enthusiasm has gone flat. Not because he bombed a movie or embarrassed himself in a rom-com, nah, it's worse. They're losing the one thing Hollywood pretends to care about the most: credibility. No one wants to risk getting caught in whatever flaming mess this couple is spiraling into. Their toxic PR and designer shoes. It all really started crumbling when Blake decided to break her silence in the most Blake way possible, by acting like the entire internet just made everything up.
It has to work for Blake to continue to be a movie star.
She tried to shut the noise down by saying she didn't hijack It Ends With Us, and that all the claims were just twisted lies cooked up by Baldoni's camp and twisted further by the media. According to her, it was just all one big mix-up. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Saying that only made things explode harder.
It really does add to the factor, that movie, she once again seemingly got caught trying to take over, and 2, it was such a big bomb, and she was so involved with her authorship that if this movie didn't do well, Kim, it would have been disastrous. So,
because it's not just that she lied, again, it's that the internet already had the receipts ready and laminated. The first slap of reality came in the form of a resurfaced clip that Reddit dug up like it was buried treasure. And of course, Popcorn Planet and every commentary channel alive jumped on it like it was Black Friday. In the clip, Blake's sitting there practically narrating her takeover strategy like it's a motivational TED Talk.
Particularly in this Deadline article. So it kind of highlights that the film did flop, but it does have an interesting part about post-production. So there is a paragraph in here saying, then in post-production, I understand, the author understands that Morano.
She talks about how she was chasing director Reed Morano, not for the rhythm section, but for some other project she had in mind. And when she found out Morano was busy, instead of moving on like a normal person, Blake went full FBI.
Who's the director of the film, Reed Morano?
Lively and Eon all clashed on what the final product would be, with the latter's version winning out. Note, this wasn't a scenario like Will Smith in Bad Boys for Life. Lively wasn't a producer on Rhythm Section with a voice.
She literally admitted to what she called stalking the woman. She wouldn't stop calling Morano's agents, basically harassing them into giving her a meeting. And get this, they finally said yes, but not really.
And I was actually trying to get her to do another film of mine, and they told me that she was entirely unavailable, that it's not worth it. I called her agents and I said, please just like take a meeting with me. And they said, okay, she can meet tonight at 10:30 p.m. And they knew I lived 2 hours away from where it was. So they were just gave me like an...
They set it up at 10:30 at night, 2 hours away from Blake's house. Translation, this was a polite way of saying, don't come. But of course, Blake took it as an invitation. She showed up anyway like some unhinged rom-com character who thinks persistence equals charm. And this is the same woman telling everyone she doesn't bulldoze her way into creative control. Please.
Like a little flippant comment, I can tell she must have bitched them. Guys, I'm 2 hours away.
And here's where it just gets downright hilarious, in a tragic, career-torpedoing kind of way. So according to Blake herself, she walks into that late-night please don't come meeting with Reed Morano, and somewhere in that chat, Morano casually mentions the rhythm section.
I begged her to do my movie, and she was meant to do another movie instead, and we instead spent the entire night talking about this script that she was obsessed with called The Rhythm Section. She wasn't hired as the director. I had never even heard of it.
Blake claims she had never even heard of it before that moment, but suddenly it became her new hyperfixation, like full-on obsession. And when Blake Lively gets obsessed, she doesn't just scroll IMDb like the rest of us. She goes full detective mode.
Barbara Broccoli had no idea who either one of us were.
Barbara Broccoli, who ran James Bond up until Amazon just bought it.
And so then I became obsessed with finding this script, and I tracked it down. And she didn't tell me the name of the script. She didn't tell me it was called A Rhythm Section. She just described the story. She described the character. She said it was the producers of Bond. And I knew that meant Barbara Broccoli, who I just heard the best things about
She somehow tracked down the script the next day without even knowing the title. Just vibes, cryptic clues, and the name Barbara Broccoli. That's it. And with just that, she manages to find the script and immediately slides into Barbara's inbox to pitch herself and Reed as a packaged duo. A 2-for-1 deal nobody asked for.
So just the fact that that's mentioned, that she was not in a producer role, but clearly had some opinions about what the final product of the film could be.
And let's be clear, this wasn't her trying to be subtle or humble about it. Nope. Blake told this story like it was her villain origin monologue. She wasn't trying to dress it up as industry hustle or some inspiring girl boss tale.
To me, that shows she was definitely trying to take authorship, right? And that's kind of been a discussion we've had as we've looked at It Ends With Us. After that Forbes interview that came out, that she said that she needs that authorship to feel fulfilled.
She straight up called herself obsessed. She bragged about tracking the script down like it was a Netflix thriller.
And sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm wondering if this is kind of one of those times it didn't go over well.
She even admitted she pushed both Reed and Barbara into saying yes, and the cherry on top,
she didn't have anybody attached to the movie, and now she would have two, like lucky her. And she fell for it, which is incredible.
She literally said, she fell for it, referring to Barbara agreeing to her plan. Like, what? That's not ambition, that's giving scammers a good blowout. The way she said it wasn't just offhand, it was calculated, like she was proud of how slick she played it. Who even says that unless you're fully aware you just manipulated someone?
It didn't go over well, but the whole movie just was it really does seem like it was just a big mess. But as Blake talks in this clip, it does show her wanting for authorship, her admiration for the director, like she wants to be in that position.
And here's the kicker. Blake wasn't even officially a producer on the rhythm section. Zero credit. Nada. But according to a report from Deadline in early 2020, the behind-the-scenes drama was so tense, it could have been its own movie.
You feel a lot more alive as an actor when you have a director who's also filming moments and capturing that.
There was major beef between Blake, Reed Morano, and the Eon production team. And guess who won that power struggle? Yup, Blake. Despite not being accredited, her vision made it to the final cut.
Just in the context of everything that we've heard through this vacuum of authorship, I thought that was very interesting.
That's not someone casually floating around set in cute outfits. That's someone running the show from the shadows, calling the shots she technically wasn't supposed to. So when she now stands there with a straight face and says she's never taken over a film, come on. At this point, her own interviews are dragging her.
You have to say all those things about Barbara Broccoli.
Barbara, for that reason. So I read the script and loved it, obviously. And then I begged Barbara to meet me.
She didn't just have opinions. She shoved herself into top-level decisions like it was her birthright. She didn't hesitate, didn't apologize, didn't even pretend to ask for permission. She did it loudly, proudly, and now wants everyone to pretend it never happened. Yeah, good luck with that.
And I was like, listen, I know you're doing another movie, and I'm supposed to be doing another movie. let's be honest, neither one of us want to be in those relationships. So let's do this movie instead. If Barbara's willing to hire us both, would you want to go in together and say, like, look at this, you got both of us?
And here's where things start to feel like deja vu in the most embarrassing way possible. Because the whole "it ends with us" mess, it's basically the Rhythm Section Part 2, just with more pastel sweaters and less espionage.
I think it does really factor into what happened with "It Ends With Us." Because as you pulled up that other article there, Eddie, with In Touch, I believe, that there was so much riding on this for her to be her comeback. And as you read through the article again, you get these very strong assertions of her ownership.
Justin Baldoni had been developing this project for years. Like, he actually cared. He got the rights, built the foundation, poured his heart into it. Especially because the story deals with domestic violence, something he's openly supported and advocated around for a long time. So this wasn't just some paycheck job for him.
She went too far, allegedly, according to Justin, and I see the writing on the wall even reading this as we go through.
And then, enter Blake. Not part of the early journey, didn't help nurture it from the start, just swoops in later as the lead, and suddenly things start to shift. Shocker.
She was like, yes, I would love to make this movie with you. So she met Barbara that weekend, I met Barbara that weekend, and we just sort of like, begged her to hire us both as a she didn't have anybody attached to the movie, and now she would have two, like, lucky her. And she fell for it, which is incredible.
According to every corner of the internet that's been dissecting this, including people like Andy Senior, Blake pulled the same stunt all over again. Once she landed the lead role, she didn't just stick to acting, she reportedly wanted creative control, directional say, authorship, the whole buffet.
She says things, and it's like, I don't think she understands the way she sounds when she says them. I respect people who are ambitious. I respect people who go out and try to make their dreams come true and things like that. Like, I totally get it. But there's just something about this that just is off.
She challenged major parts of the story, reworked emotional scenes, and tried to mold the script around her own idea of what the character should be. Which sounds familiar, right? Because it is. This is Blake's signature move. Walk into someone else's vision and start rearranging the furniture like she owns the place.
Blake, and she's been the driving force behind it. It's about things that are important to her and define her family life. The idea that love can triumph over adversity is a big deal to Blake, and this movie is going to be a celebration of it, the insider explains.
And the wild part? She still didn't have a producer credit, nothing official. But apparently, she was calling shots so loudly that the original team's vision got drowned out. And just like before, when everything started going sideways and people began noticing something felt off, who magically appeared in the cleanup crew? Ryan Reynolds, of course, like clockwork.
Ryan is cheering her on and providing strategy because he believes Blake could be the biggest actress-producer mogul this side of Reese Witherspoon, and she just needs a few more hits under her belt to be thought of that way by everybody in the movie business. So again,
his company, Maximum Effort, suddenly got involved once criticism about Blake's creative involvement started bubbling up online. Not for artistic contribution, oh no, just to play PR janitor. Whether it was curated posts, glossy behind-the-scenes promos, or subtle image management, it was clear Maximum Effort wasn't there to elevate the film. It was damage control dressed up as content strategy.
But the disastrous results were people finally learned who Blake Lively really was. Go ahead.
100%. I was going to say, just this paragraph you got right up right there, but this project is also very personal to Blake, and she's been the driving force behind it. It's about things that are important to her and define her family life. The idea that love can triumph over adversity is a big deal to Blake, and this movie is going to be a celebration of it, the insider explains.
So now we've got the same old playbook, no producer credit, all the power, everyone walking on eggshells, and Ryan trying to mop up the mess while the internet watches in high definition. Honestly, at this point, it's not a pattern, it's a formula. And the worst part? They still expect people to buy the whole "we're just passionate artists" act, while the actual creators get pushed to the side.
when we know now that this is a project that Justin had taken on for like 5 years prior, trying to get the rights to this film and wanting to do it because of the DV element.
But it didn't work. If anything, it backfired. The public saw through the pattern. In trying to present Blake as the emotional heartbeat of It Ends With Us, the strategy only reinforced the narrative that she had taken it over. Just like before, she hadn't been part of the original vision, but now she was shaping it, steering it, and selling it as her own.
It was on edge and more annoying than usual. Couldn't deal with the director because she knew, I could do this so much better. I need to take over this. This isn't what it is. This isn't what it is. Stop being weird and huggy. Oh my God, I don't have time for hug. Whatever the nonsense that was. She was so stuck she couldn't see she had a hit.
Insiders began whispering that Blake was aiming to follow in the footsteps of Reese Witherspoon, someone who had successfully transitioned from actress to producer and media mogul. One particularly telling moment came during an interview Blake gave in June 2023, just days before her lawsuit was filed. In that interview, she stated that It Ends With Us was incredibly personal to her, and that she had helped shape the tone from the inside. That comment became central to criticism because it contradicted claims she would later make in legal documents, claims that painted her as simply an actress caught in a storm of unfair criticism and targeted backlash. Blake Lively's carefully crafted PR strategy was already fraying at the seams when a completely unintentional curveball blew the whole thing apart, and it came from someone who wasn't even trying to pick a side.
Updates. Someone's been basically hijacking my Wikipedia site. There's been updates. I was looking at the last 500 updates yesterday. That's how many there are. You know, every day it's 50 new updates, and it's all kind of leaning more towards, pro Blake Lively.
Independent journalist Kirsty Flay reposted a forgotten interview she had done with Blake years ago. A clip that on the surface looked harmless. But in the middle of Blake's legal battle and public meltdown, the timing couldn't have been worse. The content of the interview didn't match the story Blake had been selling for months. And just like that, the narrative started to collapse.
Trying to paint me, in a bad light. Trying to discredit me as a journalist and as a person, and there's misinformation on there. And since I talked about it on my channel, a lot of people have been trying to correct it back to the original version.
Kirsty didn't frame the video with any commentary. She didn't attach accusations, theories, or even so much as a hashtag aimed at the controversy. She had simply reposted the old clip as part of her routine archival content, something she'd been doing regularly across her YouTube channel and social media platforms like Flossom Talk. But the moment the clip gained traction, the problems began.
Because she's blocking videos. And I don't know if it's her, but Netflix or Archwell, her company, or people involved can do sneaky things like that, where I really think they've decided to just demonetize my videos, which are doing really well.
Blake's lawsuit had been built on a narrative of emotional trauma and retaliatory sabotage, one that positioned her as the targeted victim of a malicious PR campaign allegedly orchestrated by Justin Baldoni, Melissa Nathan, and other key players involved in It Ends With Us.
I felt it was really uncomfortable feeling, I have to say, when I noticed the things about my Wikipedia page, because they were small tweaks, so I wouldn't necessarily have noticed, everything has changed. There were little tweaks of wordings and, articles that were referred to. The first article in the references was a People article that was kind of insinuating that I was the rude one in that interview.
In her filings, Blake's legal team claimed she suffered psychological harm, fear, and humiliation so intense that it made her avoid public appearances and struggle with everyday tasks. But Kirsty's interview didn't support any of that. In fact, it undermined it completely.
And it's also how would they have found your interview and held on to it all these years?
It doesn't make sense.
Your interview definitely was the tipping point where things went crazy. And could they have put some more money in making your view go viral so people were distracted? Maybe. But is that really retaliation? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. And
the clip showed Blake casually discussing topics in a tone that directly contradicted the version of herself being presented in court documents. It wasn't just the content, it was the date. The original interview took place long before the lawsuit was filed. Yet Blake's legal narrative failed to acknowledge its existence.
But I do think, though, my interview is their major problem here, because I think they can blame all the other bad publicity.
Yep.
They can blame that on Justin Baldoni or on Sony, whoever they're saying were responsible for, her tone-deaf PR campaign. Because those interviews she did during the campaign that put a very negative light, that was obviously the smear campaign doing that.
This raised serious red flags. If Blake's trauma had been ongoing, as her claims implied, how could she present herself so composed, confident, and completely unaffected in the interview Kirsty had posted? That disconnect became the smoking gun.
And they'll do anything in their power to try and find a connection with me and Baldoni's team.
And unlike other critics Blake's team had attempted to silence or discredit, Kirsty couldn't be dismissed as biased. She wasn't part of the YouTube commentary circuit known for aggressively dissecting celebrity scandals.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to do it for the record, the legal record. You have never talked to Baldoni or Melissa Nathan or Jennifer Abel or anyone in Wayfair.
No.
Yeah, and that's good. You probably should never, just to not mix that thing.
She wasn't connected to Justin Baldoni's team. In fact, she had never spoken to Baldoni, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, or anyone else named in Blake's lawsuit. The thousands of text messages turned over in discovery for the New York Times piece revealed nothing linking Kirsty to Baldoni. Not a single mention.
She's got a movie, whatever. You were probably just timing that. The idea that you were holding on to that to tank her career someday,
Yeah.
I don't see how that's even possible, how they would even have known.
That's the thing that I've been trying to say as well, How would they know? Like, someone would just, call me, in the middle of the night, hey, do you have an interview with Blake Lively? Maybe you did 8-9 years ago?
That's what made her so dangerous. Another key example came in the form of a People article being added as a source, not to highlight her journalistic career, but to imply she had acted unprofessionally during a past interview with Blake.
How would even anyone know that I had a bad interview with her? It was actually posted, part of it, on a Norwegian website back 9 years ago, but it didn't get that much attention back then. But that's the thing.
The story was reframed to suggest Kirsty was rude or aggressive, a subtle but calculated attempt to chip away at her credibility. Another edit revised her career summary to make it appear less legitimate, quietly removing awards and recognitions while inserting neutral language that diluted her authority.
And the thing is, if there were any connections between me and Baldoni's team, they would have found that in all the text messages, because they said it was thousands of messages between Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel.
The fact that these edits came in rapid succession and followed a predictable pattern suggested coordination. It didn't resemble random trolling from online strangers. It looked like a PR operation, one designed to erase her qualifications and spin the narrative just enough to justify ignoring her. Not silencing her outright, that would be too obvious, but just enough to make people second guess what she had posted.
Maybe this is, that they just made up that there was a link there that New York Times picked up on, obviously.
Right, which he looks like he's not going to win. I mean, we've always sort of warned you guys that's going to be a hard battle. But
this type of digital warfare wasn't new. Similar patterns were documented during the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp trial, where critics of Heard saw their pages edited, videos throttled, and content demonetized. It also mirrored behavior seen in the Meghan Markle backlash, where Wikipedia pages, YouTube comment sections, and Instagram algorithms suddenly shifted to suppress unfavorable content. In both cases, supporters of powerful public figures appeared to weaponize social platforms to mute independent voices.
The fact that they can do that and they're starting to do that is a sign that we need to be extra diligent and careful.
I think so too. And I don't know if you spoke to Donna, the other creator that I speak to a lot too. She put out Instagram reels that were just started muted in the middle of the audio just went off.
Kirsty wasn't the only one hit. Around the same time, fellow creator Donna, who had also been reporting neutrally on the lively Baldoni drama, noticed her Instagram reels were being muted mid-play without explanation. Her followers reported that videos weren't showing up in their feeds. Views dropped. Engagement plummeted. Algorithms appeared to be suppressing content. Selectively, and only for creators covering the Blake Lively controversy.
A lot of tricks that they were doing, and honestly, I see it now again with Meghan Markle. Weirdly enough, coming in, like I just literally had a video blocked. I've never had a video blocked worldwide because I use a clip where I was being negative of her new show with Love Meghan, which I'm not the only one. The whole world's like, girl, you're so out of touch. Who is this show for?
The worst part? It didn't work. Instead of discrediting Kirsty, the effort to bury her elevated her status as a credible voice. Viewers started looking into her past work. Journalists began connecting dots. And Blake's PR move, meant to clean things up, only deepened public suspicion that she was trying to rewrite reality to save face.
I don't want anyone to see my text messages and then they're like,
very
oh,
intrusive.
You said something bad about Blake in a text.
They'll spin it.
To
It's
a
true.
friend, and you're a horrible person. We know how they work now.
And it all came to light by early 2024 when Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case had escalated well beyond a private legal matter. It had become a public performance, one increasingly undermined not by her critics, but by Blake's own actions.
But yeah, it's wild where this is all going. I do sense it's starting to wind down. I think both sides are sort of realizing, okay, we actually have to focus on this because I don't think they're going to give up.
Behind the courtroom declarations of trauma, harassment, and emotional collapse was a very different image forming across social media, independent journalism, and resurfaced interviews. A curated campaign, pushed by Lively's team, worked overtime to position her as a victim of cruelty and manipulation. But parallel to that narrative, a quieter, more deliberate effort began to emerge. And it didn't look like defense, it looked like retaliation.
I feel like their plan, probably original plan, was to exhaust him financially, and they had kind of no idea that he would be backed by his billionaire partner at Wayfair Studio. They didn't know that.
Independent journalists like Kirsty Flaw and creators such as Donna became early targets. Neither woman launched personal attacks against Blake. Neither had any provable link to Baldoni or his team. In fact, both had been covering various entertainment topics long before It Ends With Us ever entered public consciousness. But once they began posting content that contradicted Blake's public narrative, even when doing so passively, the shift was immediate.
So I think that was probably the plan.
They had to be so pissed.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense to me that, that they would file that lawsuit and not expect him to get back and trying to defend himself. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Kirsty's YouTube uploads started disappearing from subscriber feeds. Viewers reported that her videos no longer appeared in their recommended lists. Engagement tanked. Around the same time, Donna experienced audio muting on multiple Instagram reels without any copyright strikes or violations. The content hadn't changed, the platforms had.
She actually surprised people just at a random bakery. When she went behind the counter at a Connecticut donut shop, she was really in a happy mood. The actress made a stop at the pastry stop on March 30th amidst her ongoing battle. Now, it's just really weird about this.
What both women had in common was that they posted material that either exposed contradictions in Blake's statements or resurfaced footage from years prior that didn't align with her claims of emotional fragility. These weren't smear campaigns. They were journalistic artifacts, but Blake's team apparently didn't care about the intent. All that mattered was the effect, and the effect was exposure.
This is one of my favorite additions that you came up with. I think it's nuts. And you really went for it, too.
That's always awkward. You're like, hey, hi, nice to meet you. Can I grab your nuts? It's like really hard.
Because she was doing it, she's comfortable when she makes the moves, is my assumption. It's my assumption. But when she makes those moves, she's comfortable, and then he clearly is like, okay, yeah, sure, grab them harder. Yeah, grab my nuts.
And this is where the hypocrisy reached its peak. Blake Lively filed official claims stating she was the target of a coordinated retaliation campaign. She accused Baldoni and his professional circle of conspiring to destroy her career, reputation, and mental health. But behind the scenes, her team was doing the very thing she had accused others of: suppressing dissent, discrediting journalists, and manipulating the algorithm to control narrative reach. It wasn't just PR. It was gaslighting on a digital scale.
She's out there saying, he said I smelled good and called me sexy. I'm sorry, you look really bad. This looks really bad. Why did you do all this? God, you're giving victims such a bad name.
That moment alone destroyed the illusion of vulnerability that had been propping up her legal claims. Because if Blake could grab her co-star's genitals without consent and laugh about it during an official studio commentary, then what did that say about her accusations of being objectified by a comment about her skin tone? The imbalance was blinding, and worse, it was captured on tape. No ambiguity, no spin, just reality. Blake wasn't being taken down by rumors, she was being taken down by the truth. And most of it was coming directly from her own content. Outro how? There's no walking this back for Blake. And if you want to see just how far the fallout goes, make sure to subscribe and stay locked in.